An exotic meal leaves a carpenter fighting for his life.
The thought of a parasite crawling through my body, eating its way through, was a little disconcerting.
The trip of a lifetime ends with an athletic adventurer fighting off a hidden killer.
I was petrified. I didn't want something in my body that I had no control over, and then wondering, where is it?
And a soldier returns home to find his body has been invaded by a hideous monster.
I reached between my legs, I pulled on something, and it came out.
3 cunning parasites, all with one brilliant strategy. They hitch a ride inside their hosts, feeding, thriving, undetected. They are hungry. They are hiding. They are the stowaway. Parasites live in or off other living organisms called hosts. And many of the most successful parasites find ways to bypass the immune system so that the host doesn't even know they're there.
For some parasites, hiding away inside a host is a brilliant strategy. They can get all the nourishment they need without being detected by the body's immune system. It's only when these stowaways come out of hiding that the body recognizes them. And that can mean serious trouble for the host.
As one contractor in California is about to find out. 2007. 53-year-old Kurt Pearson is enjoying his job working as a carpenter in Santa Barbara, California.
I've been a carpenter for many, many years. I specialize in door and window installation and replacement. I enjoy working with my hands, and I really love what I do.
Apart from the occasional bout of asthma, Kurt is in good health and spends his free time indulging in his favorite passion, food.
I think variety is the spice of life. Whether it be Indian dishes or Japanese food or Italian, it's always a little bit of an adventure.
But Kurt's appetite for adventure is about to come to an abrupt end. One Sunday in January, Kurt's doing some yard work at home.
I had gone down to clean up some of the debris and dirt and soil from the gutters along the sidewalk.
As Kurt heads back to his truck, he's hit with a strange sensation.
I found that I could not get a breath of air, maybe just a mouthful at a time. I would have to put my hands on my knees to catch my breath, and it took 2 or 3 minutes to actually get up enough energy to get up the driveway.
Shocked by this sudden shortness of breath, Kurt decides to call for help.
I had to call my girlfriend from the driveway to ask her to come out of the house and help me bring the tools back up because I was so fatigued that I found myself incapable of even bringing the tools back up to the top of the yard.
Kurt decides to call it a day and heads back inside to get some rest.
I've thought in the back of my mind, that's rather unusual to not be able to bring my own tools back up a driveway. I wrote that incident off as being overworked from the week before, but never did it cross my mind that I had something more serious going on at that time.
Kurt doesn't think anything more of it until a few weeks later. He's watching TV when he experiences a new and terrifying sensation.
All of a sudden, I tried to take a breath in, and I could not breathe at all. It literally felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest, and someone had put a pillow over my face. The loss of breath was so immediate, it sent me into an absolute panic.
Kurt rushes to the nearest clinic.
I felt sheer panic, wondering what could possibly be wrong with me not being able to take a breath in.
The doctor examines him and says he's suffering from an acute asthma attack and prescribes an inhaler. For Kurt, this is nothing new.
I would always be prescribed inhalers to open the airways and help relieve some of the breathing pressure and the constriction that I was experiencing during these episodes.
A few months later, Kurt is in Palm Desert, California, visiting his parents for Christmas. But when he goes to bring in some presents from his truck, he has another frightening episode.
I had to stop every 20 feet or so to catch my breath. I found it almost impossible to get back and forth from my truck, bringing some of my presents back in.
Once inside, it only takes a few seconds for his mom, Pauline, to notice something is wrong.
Kurt was using an inhaler an awful lot of the time. He could hardly breathe. I just thought, well, maybe perhaps it's, bronchitis or a slight case of pneumonia or something.
Mothers understand intuitively, I believe, when a child is sick, and she insisted I see a doctor when I got back home.
That evening, Kurt drives to the urgent care clinic. The doctor on duty asks him about his symptoms and does a quick examination.
I explained some of the episodes and conditions that I've been feeling over a period of almost a year. The doctor thumps my chest, listens, and at that point decides that he should take an x-ray of my lungs.
A few minutes later, Kurt gets the shock of his life.
The doctor comes back rather graven-faced and suggests that my lung is completely occluded, which means it is completely full of fluid.
Fluid in the lungs can indicate a number of dangerous conditions, such as tuberculosis, pneumonia, or congestive heart failure.
He said, whatever is going on with you has been going on for some time, and whatever it is, it needs to be taken care of immediately.
Kurt is put under the care of Dr. Robert Wright, a pulmonologist and critical care specialist in Santa Barbara. When he sees Kurt's chart, Dr. Wright knows that he needs to act fast.
The total amount of fluid in a person's chest generally is around 7 to 10 milliliters. I could tell from his x-rays that he had liters of fluid in his chest.
If Kurt's lungs completely fill with fluid, they could collapse, and Kurt could die. Dr. Wright immediately orders an ultrasound of Kurt's lungs. Then he performs a thoracentesis to drain the excess fluid from his chest. But when Dr. Wright begins the procedure, he's shocked. Usually the fluid is a mild yellow color. But right away, Kurt's looks different.
I know that he has something unusual from the get-go because the fluid was like chocolate milk. I knew that there was going to be a limited number of things that would cause fluid like that.
But that's not all.
It's pretty tough to see that much fluid come out of you and not wonder what on earth has caused that sort of fluid buildup in your lungs.
For Dr. Wright, the large amount of discolored fluid means only one thing.
I'm thinking, my gosh, he's probably got cancer.
Doctors have drained several liters of thick brown fluid from Kurt Pearson's lungs. Pulmonologist Dr. Robert Wright tells Kurt that he thinks the cause is cancer.
That not only worried, but terrified me. I really, truly worried about what was going on.
Where Dr. Wright can be 100% certain that Kurt does have cancer, he must send a sample of the lung fluid for testing. He contacts his colleague, Dr. David Fisk, to consult on the case. When Dr. Fisk takes a look at Kurt's lung fluid under a microscope, what he sees is astounding.
The initial thing that struck me was this slide and this patient's chest cavity are full of eggs. I don't think I'd ever seen eggs in somebody's lung fluid before. When we look at the slide and see eggs, we know that cancer is off the table on the other side of the coin. Eggs tell me that there's a live, active parasite inside the chest, which implied an unusual and very severe disease that this patient was suffering from.
Based on the size and shape of the eggs, Dr. Fisk thinks he knows what's going on.
We concluded that these eggs represented an infection from a parasite called Paragonimus westermanni.
He calls Kurt with the news.
Dr. Fisk came right out and said, "We believe you've ingested a parasite." The thought of a parasite crawling through my body, eating its way through, was a little disconcerting.
Paragonimus westermanni, also known as Japanese lung fluke, is a parasitic worm that can cause a deadly infection. Once inside the host's lungs, it burrows into the lung tissue and begins laying eggs. The presence of the parasite triggers an immune response that causes severe coughing.
If the fluke is inside a lung, the body's immune system will move into attack, causing a buildup of fluid which ultimately can collapse the lung and kill the host.
With a diagnosis in hand, the doctors immediately prescribe Kurt a powerful antiseptic drug called praziquantel. Then they turn their attention to a pressing question. How could Kurt have contracted the parasite? The doctors look to the parasite's life cycle for a clue. The lung fluke begins its life cycle as a free-living egg in the water. There, the parasite invades a snail. The eggs hatch in the snail's gut, mature, and migrate back into the water. Then, the parasite takes a new host, a freshwater crab. If a human eats a raw crab contaminated with the parasite, then they can become infected.
It's the ability to hijack the food chain while remaining totally undetected that makes the lung fluke the ultimate stowaway.
It is estimated that 80% of freshwater crabs in Asia carry the Japanese lung fluke. But lung flukes are not endemic in the United States.
I told him that this certain type of infection, this certain type of parasite, is something that you probably only see in Asia.
Dr. Fisk asks Kurt whether he has been to Asia, but he hasn't. So could this deadly parasite be on the loose in the United States? Infectious disease specialist Dr. David Fisk has just found the deadly parasite, the Japanese lung fluke, living inside Kurt Pearson's lungs.
Dr. Fisk came right out and said, "We believe you've ingested a parasite."
Dr. Fisk is now left with a pressing question. The parasite is usually only found in Asia, but Kurt has never been to Asia, so how did he get it? Since the parasite usually hides inside raw shellfish, Dr. Fisk turns his attention to what Kurt's been eating.
We needed to spend time reviewing what he'd done and what he'd eaten over the last few years.
Kurt recalls a visit to a fancy sushi restaurant several months earlier. It was there that something caught his eye.
On top of the sushi bar was a bowl of crabs.
The chef recognized Kurt as a regular patron and asked if he wanted to try some of the live crabs on display.
He knew that I like to eat some of the more challenging Japanese dishes that they had to offer, and said that he would make a special red dipping sauce for the crabs, which were alive.
Always ready for something new, Kurt agreed to eat the crabs raw.
I thought it was best to crunch them quickly. I ate them very fast. It was not the type of food that you really savor. It was chew it, swallow it, be done with it.
I'm thinking that that's the missing piece. This puzzle in my mind is now complete.
The crabs that Kurt ate were imported from Asia and probably contained the parasite. This is how doctors think he got infected. Kurt continues to take the antiparasitic medication, and finally, after weeks of treatment, Kurt is parasite-free. Today, Kurt's life has returned to normal, except for one thing.
If I ever see live crab, you can bet your bippy I'm never going to order it again. Cooked crab, I have no problem with. Raw crab never will find its way into my system again.
It's estimated that 22 million people worldwide are infected with Paragonymous westermanni, though cases in the United States are extremely rare. In order to prevent infection, all shellfish should be thoroughly cooked to 145 degrees Fahrenheit to kill any parasites lurking inside. The lung fluke has a simple strategy. It stows away inside an intermediate host like a crab and waits to be eaten by its ultimate target, a human. Paragonymous westermanni isn't the only deadly parasite to stow away in an intermediate host, as one adventure-seeking woman is about to discover. July 1996. Magalia, California. Breed Power works for a bicycle parts manufacturer, and in her free time loves interacting with nature.
I just love living in Northern California. You just have such easy access to the outdoors. I love being physically active. All my concerns or worries just dissipate. And it's kind of a rush, really, being out there.
One day in September, Breed is out riding through the forest near her home.
I ride about 40 to 50 miles in the surrounding areas. Toward the end of the bike ride, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. And that was unusual. I normally wear bike shorts, and I always know there's a certain amount of discomfort on a bike, but you just get used to it. This was just something that I never felt before.
Breed assumes she's developed a heat rash around her groin. She cuts her bike ride short and heads home.
I'm not at all worried about it. I was thinking riding the bike was aggravating it, so I thought I probably should cut back on this so that it will heal.
But a few days later, when Breed is getting ready for work, she notices that the rash is still there, and that it doesn't look like a typical heat rash.
Maybe I'm allergic to something like lotion or detergent, and that's what's prompted this rash. I was just trying to figure out what was wrong with me, really.
At the end of the week, Breed goes to the local clinic to get the rash checked out. Right away, the doctor offers a simple explanation.
They just looked at it and decided that it was poison oak.
Poison oak is a plant that's leaves can cause a severe allergic reaction. The most common symptoms are itching, a red rash, and oozing blisters.
It's a bit of a drag if it's poison oak, but it's not the end of the world. I wasn't worried. I was probably relieved.
The clinic's doctors are also unconcerned and offer a quick solution.
They told me to get anti-itch medication, and I could just buy it over the counter, so I went and I bought that.
For the next few days, Breed applies the medication, but to no avail.
This just doesn't seem to be responding at all to the treatment. It was unusual.
2 weeks after she is diagnosed with poison oak, Breed is home when she notices that the rash has spread across her upper thigh.
I've never had any kind of a skin problem ever. I now knew there was something wrong, and it was not part of the norm for me.
What Breed doesn't know is that she has already entered the dark world of parasitic infection. And now, inside the monster. What percentage of Asian freshwater crabs are infected with the paragonymous parasite? A, 5%, B, 30%, C, 50%, D, 80%. What percentage of freshwater crabs in Asia are infected with the paragonymous parasite? The answer is D, 80%. Bike rider Breed Power has been suffering from an angry red rash on her groin and upper thigh, and the rash is beginning to spread. She's tried using over-the-counter drugs, but nothing is helping.
I've never had any kind of a skin problem ever. I now knew there was something wrong, and it was not part of the norm for me.
Breed shows the rash to her roommate, Lee McCleary, a trained nurse practitioner, who is instantly suspicious.
She said it was itching and irritating. It just had a peculiar shape to it. It was fiery and itchy, and poison oak is usually more moist and blistery. The rash was absolutely unlike anything I'd ever seen.
Alarmed, Lee suggests Breed consult a dermatologist. A few days later, Breed visits Dr. Linda Davis Reed in Chico, California. Right away, Dr. Davis Reed dismisses the poison oak diagnosis.
Everybody knows what poison oak looks like, or at least they think they do. Something was just not quite right about it. We needed to get a piece of the skin to look at under the microscope to see what was going on.
Dr. Davis Reed removes a sample of the rash to be sent for a biopsy.
I thought I would go and she would write me a prescription and I'd be on my merry way. This is more involved than I was expecting.
But when the results come back, Breed is in for a shock.
I got this report, and I saw that this was something that I had never dealt with. This is an extraordinary biopsy. And they said that it showed a worm with a cuticle around it.
Breed has been infected with a mysterious parasitic worm.
I was petrified. I didn't want something in my body that I had no control over and then wondering, where is it?
To find out what kind of worm it is, Dr. Davis Reed needs to conduct another test, this time on Breed's urine.
They asked me to do a 24-hour urine collection. I would have done whatever they told me at that stage.
A few days later, the results are back.
The report that we got back showed that it was schistosomiasis.
Schistosomiasis is a life-threatening disease that's caused by the parasitic worm Schistosoma hematobium. The Schistosoma hematobium parasite infests the blood vessels around the host's bladder. There, it reproduces rapidly, laying millions of microscopic eggs, which are excreted in the urine. In rare cases, when the eggs pass out of the body, they come into contact with the skin. If this happens, they can become lodged in the skin, creating a fiery red rash. But Schistosoma hematobium can be much more dangerous than just a rash. As the schistosomes lay eggs inside the bladder, the immune response grows, creating inflammation and damaging the surrounding tissue.
Eventually, this can result in a massive buildup of dead tissue. And that buildup is correlated with the onset of cancer. And that can cause a big problem for the host.
Dr. Davis Reed breaks the news to Breed.
It's a distressing thing to hear that you have something growing inside you that shouldn't be there.
I was kind of scared about it, and I had never encountered anything like it before.
The parasite that is living inside Breed Power could trigger the most feared disease of all: cancer. Doctors have just told Breed Power that the parasite Schistosoma hematobium has invaded her bladder. But what's worse is that the parasite might have given her cancer.
I was worried that you could develop cancers that had been in your body for a long time.
Breed's doctor prescribes the powerful anti-worm medication Praziquantel and sends Breed for a scan. If cancer is present in Breed's bladder, this test will find it. The results won't come back for several days. While they are waiting, Breed's doctors try to figure out how she became infected. Schistosomes begin life as eggs in fresh water. The larvae swim about in search of the parasite's intermediate host, a snail. They invade the snail's soft, fleshy tissue, where they mature and multiply. When the snail dies, the schistosomes return to the water before burrowing through the skin of their primary host, a human.
The World Health Organization estimates that 200 million people worldwide have schistosomiasis, and the overwhelming majority of those people live in Africa.
Dr. Davis Reed asks Breed where she has traveled in the past few years.
I had traveled to Africa in Zimbabwe and Mozambique and Malawi, like 3 years earlier.
And there's one particular part of Breed's trip that catches the doctor's attention.
When I was traveling in Africa, I spent a few days at Lake Malawi, and I was swimming.
Lake Malawi is known to be a prime breeding ground for Schistosoma hematobium. It's here that Breed was probably exposed to the parasite.
Once I found out that she had been in Africa, then I thought that that's how she acquired it, just getting her feet in the water.
The Schistosoma hematobium parasite stowed away in her body, and only 3 years later did it make its presence felt.
Inside of a human host, Schistosoma hematobium will live an average of 5 to 8 years. And over the course of her lifetime, a female will produce tens of thousands of eggs. That strategy makes this parasite the perfect stowaway.
A few days later, the results of Breed's cystoscopy are back. It's good news. She's cancer-free. And the medication seems to be working too. The itchy red rash on her groin and thigh has begun to fade.
Once I was treated for the schistosomiasis, the rash resolved itself in, a short period of time.
6 months after being diagnosed, Breed goes for another test, which confirms that the parasites are gone from her system.
I'm really good. I'm very healthy. I don't have any medical concerns, and I feel really grateful for that.
Schistosomiasis is virtually unheard of in the United States. But travelers to regions where schistosomiasis is common, such as Africa and parts of Asia, should avoid swimming in freshwater rivers, streams, or lakes. For Breed Power, this microscopic monster wreaked havoc by targeting her bladder.
Schistosomes are specialized to attack one specific place in the body, destroying it and the host in the process.
But other deadly parasites are not specialized at all. And when they come out of hiding, the results can be horrifying. As one Army veteran is about to find out. 2004, Teaneck, New Jersey. Newly retired Army specialist Hartwill Cornelius is settling into civilian life as a school guidance counselor.
I enjoy my job. I enjoy working with the youth. prepare them for high school, deal with the emotional problems. That's basically what I try to do.
When he's not working, Hartwell spends most of his time staying fit with his wife of 30 years, Pat.
We both jog, we do power walks. We stay pretty active. We're basically always together.
Little does Hartwell know, he's about to go to war with a parasitic invader. One evening in October, Pat and Hartwell are sitting down to a home-cooked meal.
My wife is an excellent cook. I was looking forward to all the foods that I had missed while I was away.
I try to fix meals that Hartwell loves to eat. Black-eyed peas, rice, collard greens, you know, the works.
Hartwell finishes dinner. But 20 minutes later, he notices that he doesn't feel full.
I was hungry again. I went back in the kitchen and I just ate.
Normally, you wouldn't be hungry after eating that kind of meal. It's a heavy meal.
I never used to eat like that. But, you know, I didn't pay attention to it. I thought I was just hungry.
But over the next few days, Hartwell's appetite becomes insatiable.
I ate in the morning, lunch, snack between lunch and dinner.
He was always looking for something to eat.
After dinner, I would grab something else and probably grab something else after that.
Cookies, an apple or an orange. This could go on all night long until he actually went to sleep.
I was hungry all the time.
Then one morning when he's getting ready for work, Hartwell makes an unexpected discovery.
I put on my favorite pants and I noticed that my belt was a little loose. I went to the next loop.
In spite of his constant eating, Hartwell is actually losing weight. And when he asks Pat to take a look, she's perplexed.
I noticed body fat diminishing, and it just didn't look right. I said to him, "You're always eating." I couldn't figure it out at that time.
But Hartwell isn't worried.
I was glad to see that the weight was going down. I thought for sure that it probably was exercise, you know, normal weight loss.
A few weeks later, Hartwell and Pat are finishing up dinner when Hartwell is hit with an uneasy feeling in his stomach.
I felt a pinching on my left side of my stomach. It was very uncomfortable. The sensation lasted maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then it would come back. It felt as if I had needles. Some needles were pinching me. I've had stomach aches, but the stomach ache is much different than what I was feeling.
Hartwell is concerned that his diet is to blame.
Even though I was eating a lot, sometimes you eat a lot and not eat right. I didn't feel I was myself.
Concerned that his indulgent eating habits are making him sick, Hartwell decides to start a body cleanse. Body cleansing is an alternate form of dieting, designed to rid the body of harmful toxins.
You cleanse for about 3 months. While you're cleansing, you cannot eat certain foods. You cannot eat meat, no milk products. You have to stay with your fruits, vegetables, nuts. It acts as a broom that pushes out all the impurities out of your system.
When you're on a colon cleansing, your bowels move frequently. So if there's anything in there, it's going to come out.
Hartwell is about to rid his body of more than just toxins. 1 month into the cleanse, he is sound asleep when he is jolted awake by an excruciating pain in his stomach.
I'm feeling gassy. I'm used to feeling gassy, but this gas was rumbling just a little more. Very weird because it was something I never felt before. I thought at one point I had saw it myself.
But when he's halfway to the bathroom, he has a very disturbing sensation.
I feel something slapping against my thigh. And I stopped, I reached underneath and felt something hanging. It was something I never felt before. As I'm pulling on it, I pushed my pajamas down further. I reached between my legs, I pulled on something, and it came out. It was moving. I cut on the lights, and I have this worm in my hand. I felt very uncomfortable, knowing that there was a worm that long inside of me. I yelled to Pat, "Come here, hurry up, come here."
When Pat gets to the doorway, she can't believe what she is seeing.
He was holding it in his hand, and it was moving. It wasn't pleasant to look at. Not in my wildest dreams would I have thought that this was the problem.
The first thing that comes to my mind is, how many more do I have in me?
Retired Army veteran Hartwell Cornelius has just pulled a 9-inch long live worm out of his rectum. He and his wife, Pat, are horrified.
I felt very uncomfortable, knowing that there was a worm that long inside of me. The first thing that comes to my mind is, how many more do I have in me?
I did say that if you have this one, there has to be more.
Hartwell rushes to the hospital with the live worm in hand. The worm is sent straight to the lab, while Hartwell is examined by infectious disease specialist Dr. Daniel Kaplivsky.
I meet Hartwell for the first time, and he tells me the story of how he had passed this worm in his stool. The fact that he's passed one worm may mean that he has hundreds more inside his GI tract.
Anxious to identify the worm, Dr. Kaplivsky heads to the lab.
When someone passes a worm in the stool, one of the considerations might be tapeworms. Tapeworms are generally flat, segmented worms that can reach several feet in length.
But Hartwell's worm is not segmented, nor is it flat. For the doctors, this can mean only one thing. Dr. Kaplivsky calls Hartwell back into his office.
I tell him, I think I know what you have. He has a parasite called Ascaris lumbricoides.
Ascaris lumbricoides is a parasitic roundworm that infects the human intestine. Ascaris is the largest roundworm a human can get. They can grow up to 16 inches long.
Inside the small intestine, the Ascaris parasite gorges itself on pre-digested food, stealing nutrients from its host. The worms reach maturity, breed, and continue feeding inside the host's intestines. But the Ascaris worm is not a benign invader. It can cause fatal complications.
If multiple Ascaris worms migrate to the wrong part of the body, like the colon, they can cause a blockage that turns deadly for the host.
So the question remains, has this voracious monster taken over Hartwell's entire digestive system?
Most patients who have ascariasis have many, many worms. I explained that because he's passed a single worm of Ascaris, he could have other worms still present in his GI tract.
If there are other worms inside Hartwell's large intestine, they could cause a backup of waste, and Hartwell could die. Dr. Kaplivsky floods Hartwell's system with antiparasitic drugs.
I was very disturbed at the fact that I did have more worms in my stomach.
While the treatment takes effect, Hartwell and his doctors turn their attention to where Hartwell might have contracted the hungry parasite. Ascaris lumbricoides parasites begin as free-living eggs in the soil. If If the eggs are ingested by a human host, they travel to the intestines, where they feed, mate, and lay eggs. When the parasitic eggs are passed out in the host's feces, the life cycle is complete.
It is estimated that this parasite infects over a quarter of the world's population right now. In some parts of Africa, almost 95% of people are infected.
In the U.S., Ascaris infection is rare. But one of the ways the parasite can enter the country is as a stowaway inside a living host.
Ascaris infection is present here in the United States, but at very low levels and low numbers. It's much more common in folks who have traveled from other countries.
Dr. Kaplivsky asks Hartwell about his travel history.
We learned that Hartwell has been serving in Iraq and Afghanistan and has had a lot of close contact with the local populace.
While on duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, Hartwell often shared food with local civilians.
There would be a long carpet full of food, and we all sat around on the ground and we eat their food with them. You would have to eat the food. If you didn't eat the food, they would always become suspicious of it. It was a form of being courteous and respectful to their culture.
I asked Hartwell specifically the kind of foods he was eating. He tells me he's been eating fruits, uncooked vegetables, all the kinds of foods that might put him at risk for different parasitic infections.
It's likely that while on active service, Hartwell ingested food that was contaminated with microscopic Ascaris eggs. Hartwell returns home and continues to take the antiparasitic medication. A few days later, he returns to Dr. Kaplivsky's office, where his stool sample is tested for parasites. And the news is good.
In the stool sample, we're not able to find any more of the eggs of Ascaris or other worms. We're hopeful that as he takes these medicines, he'll feel much better.
I was very relieved that he told me that I didn't have any more worms in me. The medication had removed all what was probably there. So, I pretty much got a clean bill of health from that point on.
Today, Hartwell is parasite-free and back to his old self.
Considering that you have so many guys who go to Iraq and they come back with so many injuries that, they're trying to recover from. For me to just come back with a bug, I can handle the bug and deal with it as it is now. It's all in the past, and I can move on from there.
Ascaris worms are more common in areas where sanitation is poor. In these regions, travelers should avoid eating uncooked fruits and vegetables, or foods washed in unpurified water.
Avoiding detection and staying clear of the host's immune system are the keys to success for some parasites. It's only when they come out of hiding that the real trouble begins. And when that happens, there's no telling what damage these stowaways can do.
Have you ever wondered if your habits could be quietly pushing people away as you get older? It's something we don't often think about, but as we age, certain behaviors can start isolating us without us even realizing it. From the way we communicate to how we take care of ourselves, these small actions can have a huge impact on our relationships and quality of life. In this video, we're going to uncover 12 habits that might be sabotaging your relationships and happiness, things that many people don't even know they're doing. But here's the good news. Once you're aware of these habits, you can start making positive changes that will lead to a more fulfilling, connected life. Whether it's the way we complain too much, stop embracing new technology, or even neglect our appearance, these habits can leave us feeling lonely and disconnected. But by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to reverse these behaviors and build stronger relationships, improve your self-esteem, and live with more joy and purpose. Plus, I'll be sharing actionable tips that you can start using right now to transform your daily life. So stick with me to the end for the most surprising and impactful change you can make. You don't want to miss number 7, as it's the one that catches everyone off guard. And by the time most realize it, it's already too late to fix. So, if you're ready to reclaim your happiness and your relationships, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive in. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, You can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Becoming too negative or critical. Julie never imagined she could become the type of person who was seen as negative. After all, she always prided herself on her honesty, and in her eyes, that was all she was doing, being truthful. But somewhere along the way, she began to notice a change in herself. Her words, once filled with warmth and curiosity, began to shift. Each morning, she woke up with an ache or a stiffness in her joints and couldn't help but grumble, lamenting the fact that age was catching up with her. She would flip on the news, and with each passing report, a sigh would escape her lips as frustration boiled over at the state of the world. She talked to her younger relatives, and more often than not, her comments were laced with judgment. "Back in my day, we had more respect for others," she'd mutter, shaking her head. At first, she didn't see it. It was just little things, small complaints here and there that seemed harmless. But over time, it became harder to ignore the quiet shifts in her life. Her conversations started to feel shorter and less genuine. Friends, those who had once been eager to chat, now seemed to avoid the deeper topics. They would steer the conversation away from anything that might lead to complaints or criticism. Even her beloved grandkids, who used to run into her arms the moment they saw her, now seemed to pull away, always finding excuses to stay away longer. Julie couldn't understand why this was happening. She thought, what's wrong with wanting to vent? What she didn't realize was that negativity, even when it's rooted in valid frustrations, is like a heavy weight on the souls of those who hear it. It saps energy, leaving people feeling drained, defeated, and worse than they did before. The truth is, it's so easy to slip into a spiral of criticism. The world around us changes at a breakneck pace, and with it, things that once felt familiar and comforting can become alienating. Our bodies start to betray us, and tasks that once felt simple now feel like monumental challenges. Shopping, driving, learning to use new technology. Everything feels like it requires more effort than it used to. And yes, it's natural to vent and express frustration. Life is frustrating, after all. But when that frustration becomes the default, when negativity starts to dominate our interactions, it subtly but powerfully drives people away. It's an exhausting cycle, and no one is immune to it. It feels like a small crack at first, but over time, it grows, making it harder for people to connect and for joy to thrive. How to turn this around? The key to shifting this negativity lies in consciously choosing how to engage with the world. It's about finding the positive, even on the hardest days. Start your conversations with something light, something uplifting. Imagine if Julie began her day by saying, "I woke up feeling so much better today," or, "Did you see that gorgeous sunset last night?" Or maybe, "I just read something that made me think." When we bring positive energy into a room, it can be like turning on a light in a dark space. People are naturally drawn to that light, and they stay longer in its warmth. Setting a limit for complaints is also crucial. Permitting yourself to express frustration, but only for a set amount of time, can help you avoid spiraling into a negativity vortex. 2 minutes of venting, followed by a shift toward something constructive. Instead of rejecting the new, unfamiliar, and seemingly frivolous, try being curious. When your grandchild talks about a new app or trend, instead of dismissing it with a sigh, ask, "Tell me more about that. What makes it so fun?" It's about changing the lens through which you see the world. Fostering curiosity instead of critique, understanding instead of judgment. Julie had no idea how much her negativity was affecting her until she made a conscious effort to change. She started leading her conversations with positivity, like a small but deliberate step toward breaking the pattern. To her surprise, people started responding differently. Her friends lingered longer, willing to share more with her. Her grandkids, who had once kept their distance, came back with eager smiles. Slowly, the connection she thought she'd lost began to return. Her heart, once clouded by negativity, began to feel lighter, and she realized something profound. The effort to shift her mindset wasn't just about changing her relationships. It was about rediscovering the joy of life itself. She learned that positivity is a gift, not only for others but for herself, too. It doesn't just lift the spirits of those around us, it transforms our hearts and souls, opening doors to healing, connection, and a renewed sense of wonder. Number 2. Ignoring personal hygiene and appearance. Julie once lived for the thrill of getting dressed up, the feeling of slipping into her favorite colorful blouse, and the subtle yet signature scent of her perfume that clung to her as she moved. Every detail was intentional. Her hair was always styled just right, and her clothes were chosen with care to reflect her personality and mood. It wasn't about impressing others. It was about honoring herself and showing the world the vibrant, confident woman she was. But as time passed, something shifted in Julie. At first, it was just small changes. Skipping a few makeup applications here and there, canceling hair appointments, and opting for looser, more comfortable clothes that offered no frills and no effort. And yet, deep down, she justified it. Why bother? She'd think to herself. I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore. And so, day after day, Julie fell into a routine of neglect. She would stay in her house clothes, one she had once reserved for lazy Sundays, and rarely, if ever, looked in the mirror. Her days became longer, as did the time between showers. She convinced herself it didn't matter. She told herself it was fine, that the world had moved on, and that her appearance wasn't worth the energy. But deep within, there was a whisper, a nagging feeling that something was slipping away, that something wasn't right. It was subtle at first, but then it hit her more undeniably. She noticed the shift in how people treated her. Strangers who once admired her bright smile and chic outfits no longer glanced her way. She couldn't remember the last time someone had complimented her, not even out of politeness. Her friends, who once asked her to join them for dinners, events, or spontaneous outings, stopped inviting her. Her phone grew quieter, and the loneliness began to seep in. It wasn't just the absence of invitations, it was the feeling of invisibility. Julie found herself looking at old photos of herself, wondering where that radiant, confident woman had gone. It was as if she was looking at a stranger, a woman she barely recognized, lost somewhere in the shadows of time. What Julie didn't realize was how much her appearance mattered, not just to others, but to herself. How she presented herself was a direct reflection of how she felt inside. The way we take care of our appearance isn't about vanity. It's about acknowledging our worth, about telling the world, and ourselves, that we still care, that we still have the strength and desire to engage with life fully. Personal hygiene, grooming, and dressing up are acts of self-respect. They are the outward signs of an inner commitment to stay engaged with the world. When we neglect ourselves, we inadvertently tell the universe that we're withdrawing, that we no longer deserve the effort of self-love. How to turn this around? Julie needed to remember something fundamental. Small actions matter. The way to begin the journey back to herself wasn't about drastic changes, but about making small, deliberate efforts to take care of herself. It started with something as simple as getting dressed every day, even if she had no plans to leave the house. It didn't have to be anything elaborate, just something clean, comfortable, and well-fitting. When you wear something that makes you feel good, it's like a little spark of positivity that can ignite your entire mood. It's a simple but powerful act that says, I'm worth the effort today. Julie also began to prioritize her hygiene once again, carving out time for a warm shower, trimming her nails, and indulging in small acts of self-care like moisturizing her skin and brushing her hair. These tiny acts weren't just about staying physically clean. They were about sending a message to her inner self. I matter. I am worth the time. These rituals, small as they seemed, were a way of reaffirming her connection with herself, of reminding her that she was still here and still worthy of love, especially her own. She rediscovered the power of color and the effect it had on her spirit. Julie began to wear colors that made her feel alive, bright, vibrant hues that made her feel energized like she was walking in sunlight. She even started adding little accessories, a favorite watch, a simple pair of earrings, or just a spritz of her favorite perfume. It was as if these small touches brought back a sense of joy, reminding her of the woman she used to be, and still is, deep down. And it worked. Slowly but surely, Julie felt a shift. When she brushed her hair, slipped on a blouse she loved, and dabbed on a bit of lipstick, she began to notice the world around her respond. She walked into rooms with her head held a little higher, and suddenly, people smiled at her again. She felt lighter, brighter, more confident, and, most importantly, like herself again. The woman who had once loved getting dressed up was no longer lost. She was reclaiming herself, piece by piece, one small, loving action at a time. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Your appearance isn't just how others perceive you. It's a reflection of how you feel inside. When you take the time to care for yourself, to show up for yourself, you're telling the world, and more importantly, you're telling yourself that you're still alive, still vibrant, and still worthy of all the good things life has to offer. And that, my friends, is a truth that can transform the way you see yourself and how the world sees you in return. Number 3. Becoming stubborn and resistant to change. Julie had always been a creature of habit. She reveled in the comfort of her routines, the familiar rhythms of life that had worked for decades. She believed that what had worked in the past was good enough, and there was no need to change something that had brought her so much stability. Change, in her eyes, was unnecessary and even intrusive. She'd often scoff at the idea of learning anything new, especially when it came to technology. "I don't need to learn all that," she'd say, her voice dismissive as she waved off her kids' and grandkids' attempts to introduce her to the world of text messages. "If they want to talk to me, they can call." But as time passed, the phone calls became less frequent. It wasn't as if her family didn't care. Oh, they cared deeply, but the way they communicated had evolved. They are no longer called as often. Instead, they sent messages in group chats, exchanged pictures and funny videos, and even sent birthday reminders, all things that Julie refused to engage with. She watched as the world around her seemed to move on, leaving her behind in a quiet, invisible isolation. Julie never realized how much she was missing until the day her heart sank as she scrolled through a conversation thread and saw all the moments she had never been a part of. The precious photos of her great-grandkids, the playful banter, the quick check-ins that felt like warm hugs through a screen. It wasn't just about technology. It was about her connections to the people she loved, slipping through her fingers like sand. The painful truth, though, is that stubbornness, as innocent as it may seem, can lead to isolation. We can easily fall into the trap of thinking that change isn't necessary, that the way we've lived for years, even decades, is the right way, the only way. But in reality, refusing to adapt, whether it's resisting new technology, avoiding new ways of doing things, or stubbornly clinging to old habits, can push the ones we love away without us even realizing it. We lose touch with the world and, most heartbreakingly, with the people who matter the most to us. How to stay open to change. It's time to say, "I'll try," instead of, "I don't need that." Just those 3 little words, "I'll try," can make all the difference in the world. It keeps your heart and mind open, it keeps you sharp, and it creates opportunities for new, beautiful experiences. Don't shut things down before you give them a chance. Ask for help, and allow it to become a moment of bonding. Invite your kids or grandkids into your world, and let them teach you something new. You'll be amazed at how learning together creates not just new skills but memories that you'll treasure forever. Start small. Embrace tiny changes first. You don't have to transform overnight or become a tech expert at the drop of a hat. Instead, begin with small, simple adjustments. A quick text here, a new hobby there, or even watching a show that your grandkids adore. It's these little acts that will help you stay connected to the world around you, bridging the gap between generations and keeping your heart full. When Julie finally decided to let her granddaughter teach her how to send a text message, she was shocked by how easy it was. But more than that, she was overwhelmed with gratitude as she realized what she had been missing all along. She saw pictures of her great-grandkids' first steps, received jokes that made her laugh out loud, and got those precious little check-ins that filled her heart. By letting go of her resistance, Julie discovered something far more precious than any technological gadget, a deeper, richer connection with the people she loved most. And that, my dear friends, is the real gift that comes with change. It's not just about adapting to new ways. It's about keeping the door to your heart open, making sure that the bonds we cherish never fade away. Number 4. Hoarding and refusing to let go of clutter. Julie had always been deeply sentimental, a woman who saw value in everything. Her home was a reflection of her memories. Old birthday cards from loved ones she hadn't seen in years, piles of newspapers she'd once meant to read but never had the time to, clothes she hadn't worn in ages but kept just in case. Each item had a story, a personal connection that made it almost impossible for her to part with. What was once a cozy haven full of cherished mementos slowly became an overwhelming sea of things she rarely used but couldn't bear to let go of. At first, Julie didn't see any harm in it. "Everything here has value," she'd say with conviction. "I might need it one day." But what she failed to realize was that the clutter was slowly taking control of her life. It was more than just piles of old books and forgotten trinkets. It was stress, anxiety, and a sense of being suffocated by the weight of things she didn't need. Her home, once warm and inviting, began to feel like a maze. Navigating from room to room became a challenge, and cleaning felt impossible. Even inviting guests over started to seem like an overwhelming task. Her daughter, with a gentle and loving voice, suggested that Julie consider letting go of a few items, but Julie's resistance was strong. "What if I need them later?" she would say, a deep fear settling in her heart at the thought of letting go of anything. She clung to the past through the things she kept, not realizing that the very items she held onto were preventing her from embracing the present and all the beautiful opportunities it had to offer. Clutter isn't just about filling up physical space. It also fills up your mind. It weighs you down, causing stress and making everyday life harder than it needs to be. The emotional attachment to things can keep you tethered to moments that no longer serve you, preventing you from moving forward. Letting go can feel like losing part of yourself, but in reality, it's about freeing yourself from the past so you can fully embrace the future. How to break free from clutter. The journey to freedom starts small. One drawer, one box, one shelf at a time. Don't try to tackle everything at once. That can feel overwhelming and discouraging. Break it down into manageable chunks. Begin by asking yourself, do I use this? Does it bring me joy or add value to my life? If the answer is no, let it go. Donate the items that still have life in them, recycle what can no longer serve a purpose, and pass on those treasures to family members who will cherish them. Letting go isn't about erasing memories. It's about honoring the ones that truly matter by making space for new ones. Turn decluttering into a daily habit. Set a goal to part with one item every day, and before you know it, you'll see a noticeable transformation. Even though the process might feel slow at first, each step you take will bring you closer to a more peaceful, organized life. Consider the bigger picture. Cluttered spaces are more than just an eyesore. They can also be hazardous. Clutter increases the risk of trips, falls, and accidents, and a safe, uncluttered home fosters peace of mind. A home should be a sanctuary, a place where you feel comfortable, relaxed, and free from the stress of unnecessary things. When Julie finally decided to start decluttering, the change was nothing short of profound. She began with small steps, parting with clothes she hadn't worn in years, recycling outdated magazines, and organizing the space around her. As she cleared away the excess, she was amazed at how much lighter and freer she felt. Her home transformed from a chaotic collection of memories to a peaceful sanctuary where she could finally breathe. She felt a sense of renewal, not just in her space but in her heart. For the first time in a long while, Julie felt comfortable inviting friends over again without the fear of judgment or the weight of disorganization holding her back. Letting go of clutter wasn't about losing things. It was about making room for the things that truly matter for a simpler, more peaceful, and more fulfilling life. In the end, decluttering wasn't just about getting rid of stuff. It was about clearing the path to a better future. Julie's decision to let go of what no longer served her was an act of self-love, a step toward embracing a life filled with purpose, freedom, and joy. And that, in itself, was the greatest gift she could give herself. Number 5. Losing patience with others too quickly. Julie had always prided herself on being a calm, understanding person. She never imagined herself as someone prone to impatience. After all, she had spent most of her life practicing patience, learning to embrace the chaos and challenges of everyday life with a smile. But lately, something inside her was changing. Little things, insignificant at first, began to irk her in ways they never had before. There was an undercurrent of frustration that seemed to simmer beneath the surface, and no matter how hard she tried to ignore it, it bubbled up more often than she'd like to admit. One ordinary afternoon, Julie found herself standing in line at the grocery store, waiting for the young cashier to finish bagging her groceries. He was slow, so slow that Julie could feel the weight of the seconds dragging on. His hands were unsteady as he fumbled with the bags, clearly a bit overwhelmed by the task. Julie's heart raced with annoyance. "Can't you move a little faster?" she muttered under her breath, her impatience getting the better of her. It felt like the world was moving at a crawl, and she just wanted to get out of there and move on with her day. But then something caught her eye. The cashier, suddenly aware of her impatience, looked down at the counter, his face flushing with embarrassment. That's when Julie saw it, the subtle tremor in his hands, the nervousness in his posture. He was young, probably new at the job, and struggling with the pressure of trying to do everything right. That moment was a gut punch. It hit her all at once. She had become the very person she once despised, the one who let impatience dictate their actions, the one who snapped at people without taking a moment to consider their situation. How had she become so quick to judge, so slow to show kindness? As we get older, it becomes easier to lose patience with others. The little annoyances that used to roll off our backs suddenly feel magnified. Our days, once full of calm, start to feel crowded with frustrations. We become less tolerant, more rigid, and less willing to bend with the flow of life. And yet, when we act out of frustration, we're not only harming the people around us but ourselves as well. That pent-up anger and impatience only raise our stress levels, draining us emotionally. And for what? A few seconds shaved off a line at the grocery store? Is that worth it? So, how can we stay patient and kind in a world that constantly tests our limits? It starts with pausing. Just pausing before reacting. It's a small but powerful tool. When you feel that familiar spark of irritation creeping in, take a deep breath. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, is this worth getting upset over? Remind yourself that the slow driver in front of you might be someone's grandfather, trying his best. The distracted cashier might be a college student working long hours to pay their tuition. We all carry invisible burdens. If we could just open our hearts to the humanity behind the actions of others, it might transform our frustration into empathy. Look for small moments throughout your day to practice kindness. Instead of letting your irritation take the wheel, choose gentleness. A smile. A soft word of encouragement. A simple, take your time, can make someone feel seen, heard, and appreciated. It's amazing how such small gestures can shift the energy in a space, turning irritation into connection. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all need? More connection, more kindness, more understanding? If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Julie made a promise to herself that day. The next time she went to the store, she would be different. She would slow down, both literally and figuratively. When she reached the same young cashier again, she smiled at him genuinely and said, "You're doing a great job." His face lit up, his eyes filled with gratitude. In that simple exchange, Julie realized something important. Kindness doesn't just make someone else's day, it transforms your own as well. It lifts you, lightens your soul, and makes life feel just a little bit easier. And perhaps that's the true power of patience. Not just in making others feel better, but in making ourselves better, too. Number 6. Over-talking and not listening. Julie had always been the life of the conversation. She had an endless supply of stories, a wealth of advice, and memories that she couldn't wait to relive. Talking was her way of connecting, her way of feeling loved and valued. But over time, something changed. Julie began to notice that her daughter, the person she cherished most in the world, wasn't calling as often. And when they did speak, the conversations felt rushed, almost as if her daughter was anxious to get off the phone. Julie's heart ached. Was something wrong? She couldn't help but ask, "Is everything okay? You don't call as much anymore." There was a long, uncomfortable pause before her daughter's soft voice finally came through the receiver. "Mom, I love talking to you, but sometimes I don't feel heard. It's like our calls are all about you, and I never get to share what's on my mind." Julie felt as though the wind had been knocked out of her. Shocked, she didn't even begin to cover how she felt. She had no idea how often she had dominated their conversations, how frequently she had interrupted with her own experiences, how often she had eagerly pushed her advice before her daughter could even finish her sentence. How had it gotten this way? Had she unknowingly pushed her daughter away? It's easy, isn't it? We fall into this trap as we age. We accumulate a lifetime of wisdom, and all we want is to pass it on, to share what we've learned, and to give advice we believe might help. But in doing so, we forget something crucial: listening. We forget how important it is to simply hear the other person. We forget that a relationship is a two-way street, and when we monopolize the conversation, we risk losing the very connection we cherish most. Julie realized that her actions, no matter how well-intentioned, had created a wall between her and her daughter. She had been so focused on filling the silence with her own words that she hadn't noticed the silent withdrawal on the other side of the line. Her daughter's hesitation to talk, the quieter responses, the sudden longing for the conversation to end, all of it made sense now. So, Julie decided to make a change. The next time her daughter called, she took a deep breath, set aside her thoughts, and truly listened. She asked questions, ones that invited her daughter to open up and did not just respond. "What's been the best part of your week?" she asked, genuinely wanting to know, not just out of habit. Julie didn't rush in with advice. She didn't interject with her own story. Instead, she gave her daughter the space to express herself fully, to share her joys, her worries, her triumphs, and her struggles. And as Julie did this, she felt a shift, a deep, emotional shift. The connection they had once had seemed to return, stronger and more meaningful than before. Julie had learned something invaluable. The best conversations aren't about talking more, they're about listening better. Listening with your heart, not just your ears. When we listen deeply, when we make the other person feel truly heard, we create a space for connection that words alone cannot build. So, if you find yourself talking more than listening, take a step back. Ask yourself, when was the last time I truly listened? When was the last time I let the other person speak without rushing to interrupt or offer advice? And most importantly, when was the last time I listened with my whole heart? The answers might surprise you, but the change it brings could transform your relationships forever. Number 7. Pushing people away instead of asking for help. Julie had always taken great pride in her independence. For as long as she could remember, she had been the one to take care of everyone around her. She raised her children with an unwavering commitment, handled every detail of her household, and even helped her neighbors with anything they needed. She was the pillar of strength, the person others turned to, and for a long time, that felt like the greatest achievement of her life. But as the years passed, the weight of life became heavier. Simple tasks that once felt effortless began to take a toll on her body. One afternoon, as she struggled to lift a heavy grocery bag from her car, she felt a wave of exhaustion she couldn't ignore. A young man walked by, and with a gentle smile, he offered, "Need a hand with that?" Julie, though grateful for the offer, felt a surge of resistance. She didn't want to admit that she needed help. She was Julie, after all. The strong one, the one who never asked for assistance. "No, thank you," she said, forcing a smile as she struggled to drag the bag toward the door. The weight of the bag felt more than just physical. It symbolized something deeper. Every step she took, her back ached, but what hurt even more was the sense of isolation creeping in. She had just rejected kindness. She had pushed someone away who only wanted to help, and in doing so, she pushed herself further into loneliness. That night, Julie found herself in tears. It wasn't just the pain in her body, it was the pain in her heart. She realized, in a raw moment of clarity, that refusing help wasn't a sign of strength. It was a sign of fear. Fear of being seen as weak. But in her refusal, she had only created a greater distance between herself and others. She had allowed pride to replace connection. Why asking for help is a strength. Asking for help doesn't diminish you. It doesn't make you weak or a burden, it makes you human. It allows others to show their care for you. People genuinely want to help, and when you refuse, you not only deny yourself the support you deserve, but you also deny them the joy of giving. It's a beautiful cycle. When you allow someone to lend a hand, you are allowing them to connect with you to share a moment of kindness. You are reminding them that their presence matters. We are all part of a community, and that community thrives on mutual support. Imagine if no one ever needed your help. Imagine how unimportant you would feel. Life is not meant to be lived in isolation. Offering and receiving help creates an unspoken bond, a connection that transcends words. It reminds us that we are not alone. How to change the habit. The next time someone offers help, resist the urge to turn them down out of pride. Instead, try something different. Yes, that would be great. Thank you. It's as simple as that. When you need help, ask for it. Be open. Don't wait until you're at the breaking point. Ask, "Would you mind giving me a hand with this?" And so, Julie took a deep breath and decided to change. The next time she saw the young man at the store, she smiled warmly. "Actually," she said, "I could use a little help today." The man's face lit up, and as he grabbed her bag, Julie felt something shift in her heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly connected. In that small moment, she realized the power of asking for help. It wasn't just about making life easier, it was about allowing love and care to flow into her life once again. Number 8. Being too frugal to enjoy life. Julie had always been careful with her money, perhaps a little too careful. She had learned early in life the value of saving, of being frugal, and of planning for the future. For years, she clipped coupons, skipped vacations, and hesitated before making any purchase that wasn't necessary. Even though she had a comfortable nest egg saved for the future, she couldn't shake the nagging worry. What if something unexpected happens? What if I run out of money one day? The fear of running out, of not having enough, held her back from truly enjoying life. Her life had become a series of sacrifices, all for a future that never seemed to arrive. Then, one day, her best friend Linda invited her on a weekend getaway to the countryside. "Come on, Julie, let's go. It'll be fun. We'll explore, eat good food, And just relax for a couple of days, Linda said, her excitement palpable. Julie's first instinct was to decline. Spending money on travel, staying in a nice place, eating out at restaurants? She could think of a dozen reasons not to go. But deep down, a voice inside whispered, "When was the last time I treated myself? When was the last time I did something just for fun, just for me?" The thought lingered in her mind, even as she made excuses. Julie had spent so many years saving for one day. But what if that day never came? What if she spent her entire life hoarding money, only to realize too late that she had never truly lived? Why enjoying your money matters. While being financially responsible is undoubtedly important, life isn't just about saving. It's about living. It's about making memories, experiencing joy, and feeling the fullness of life. Research shows that spending money on experiences, traveling, going to concerts, exploring new hobbies, creates lasting happiness, while material possessions lose their luster over time. The truth is that experiences enrich our souls in ways that things simply cannot. Julie had worked hard for this stage of life. She had sacrificed so much for her family and her future, and now it was time to enjoy it. Money is meant to support our happiness, not just sit in a bank account. Security is important, but so is fulfillment. We need to find a balance between saving for the future and living fully in the present. What good is it to have wealth if we can't enjoy it while we're still here to savor it? How to change the habit. It's okay to spend money on things that bring you joy. Allow yourself to indulge in a nice dinner, take a weekend getaway, or invest in a new hobby that excites you. Set aside a portion of your savings specifically for experiences that will nourish your spirit. Ask yourself, if not now, when? Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. The time to enjoy yourself is now. Julie finally said yes to that weekend trip with Linda. And for the first time in what felt like forever, she laughed freely. They explored, they ate delicious food, and they talked for hours. As the weekend came to a close, Julie watched the sunset with Linda and realized that this was exactly what she had been saving for all along. These moments, these experiences, these bursts of joy. She had spent so many years worrying about the future that she had forgotten how to live in the present. The joy Julie felt during those 2 days reminded her of something she had forgotten. Life isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. And sometimes, thriving means treating yourself, saying yes to joy, and allowing yourself the pleasure of living fully in the moment. Number 9. Talking down to younger generations. Julie adored her grandson, Ethan. She had watched him grow from a curious, energetic child into a thoughtful young adult. She looked forward to his visits, but lately, their time together had started to feel awkward. He used to tell her all about school, his friends, and his favorite video games. But now, their conversations were strained, almost as if a wall had slowly been built between them. One day, Ethan mentioned a new app he had downloaded, his eyes lighting up as he talked about it. Julie sighed, her heart heavy with nostalgia. "Back in my day, we didn't need all this technology," she said, a tinge of judgment in her voice. "We played outside. Kids these days are always staring at screens instead of getting fresh air." Ethan fell silent. Julie watched as he glanced at his phone and shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I should probably get going," he mumbled. As the door clicked shut behind him, Julie felt a sharp pang in her chest. What had she done? She hadn't meant to push him away, but had she? Was she making him feel like his interests didn't matter? Had her words created a divide between them that was hard to repair? Why this pushes younger generations away? If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It's natural to look back on the past and compare it to the present. We see how much things have changed, and sometimes we feel the urge to remind younger generations of how things used to be. But constantly telling younger people that their way of life is inferior to ours only makes them feel dismissed, criticized, and misunderstood. Instead of building a bridge of connection, it creates distance. Every generation faces different challenges, different opportunities, and different ways of interacting with the world. We may not always understand it, but that doesn't mean we should belittle it. Connection thrives when we encourage, support, and engage with others, not when we criticize them for being different. How to change the habit. Be curious, not dismissive. When a younger person shares something with you, instead of saying, "We never had that in my day," try responding with, "That sounds interesting. Tell me more about it." Be open to learning about their experiences, their interests, and their passions. Ask questions. Share your own stories in a way that acknowledges and respects their perspective rather than belittling it. Our words have the power to inspire, and when we support younger generations, we create a space for them to thrive. The next time Ethan visited, Julie decided to try something different. When he brought up his favorite game, instead of dismissing it, she smiled warmly and asked, "What do you like about it?" Ethan lit up, his excitement shining through as he explained the strategy behind the game. For the first time in a while, their conversation flowed easily, and Julie realized that it wasn't about trying to change him. It was about understanding him. It was about appreciating the things that made him who he was and celebrating the unique way he experienced the world. Number 10. Holding on to grudges and regrets. Julie sat by the window, staring at the falling leaves outside. The crisp air of the approaching holiday season should have filled her with excitement, but instead, her heart felt heavy. The familiar ache of old wounds resurfaced, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the past. She thought of the friend who had betrayed her years ago, the argument with her sister that was never resolved, and the dreams she had let slip away. The regrets, the missed opportunities, and the broken relationships felt like a weight she couldn't escape. The past was like a song on an endless loop, replaying in her mind with painful precision. One